What's good, Wagering World? It's your boy 5 Star in Vegas, broadcasting live as always from beautiful Summerlin, Nevada, and with my co-host, my guy, the only Sacramento Kings fan that I know. What's good, Spread Astaire? How are you today?
Oh man, I'm excited to talk some football. Obviously, a lot going on in the world of football, both college and the NFL, but the NFL kind of taking center stage with some controversy, so I can't wait to hear your thoughts.
That Tua situation was scary last night. They kept showing the replay, and I really did not want to see it. I completely agreed with J.J. Watt. Like, stop showing this replays because this isn't normal what this guy's fingers are doing from this tackle. Unlike most people, I don't really say that last game had anything to do with this hit. He could have not have even been hurt last game. And I think this hit that happened to him might have created the same outcome. But yet and still, we both know that it most likely was a concussion the first time that he got hit against Buffalo when he was stumbling, just simply because if it's your back, you're not going to shake or loose the cobwebs. And that's the thing that was most disturbing about that video from the previous game. And now this happens to him. And, you know, Tua struggled his whole career kind of to stay healthy. He has a slight body, man. Some people just don't have the physical traits to endure the NFL, and unfortunately, I feel like he might be one of those. That was my fear about him coming out of Alabama after he got the hip broken. It was the same type of situation with a lineman slinging him down, whereas in thicker guys who are small, like Kyler Murray, like Russell Wilson, they get thrown down, and they're former baseball players and used to go into the ground and kind of know how to fall correctly and can survive through those type of things. And then you see people like Lamar, who was slight, that bulked all the way up. Tua was trying to put on the weight, but sometimes you just don't have the body that's cut out for a physical game like football is. And he's gotten hurt now twice in his career, well, really three if you could consider the Buffalo situation last week, off of being thrown down to the ground. So it's just some people, just their bodies can't take the fall, man. You know, like their bodies aren't built for contact like that. And he's really gotten himself injured badly on two pretty like normal football plays that some people with stronger bodies could endure. But our prayers up for him. He's an awesome dude. He comes from an awesome family. And I just really hate that he's in a sticky situation with having all that football talent and football acumen, but not really having a body that can take these type of hits that he's enduring in college and professional football.
Let's move on to past, present, future, because I'll jump in on Tua there a little bit later in the show because we're not done with that one. But let's just talk about the game from a football standpoint. I'll say it again, and people will get sick of it, but Thursday Night Football's stupid. Just stupid. You can't. I told you that. Remember when we talked about it? You know, we didn't give it out because we were on opposite sides. But I said, you know, I'm worried you're looking at this from a football perspective when it's just physically unfair for these men after having to play against Buffalo in that crazy heat to just turn around after 3 days. Like, where's the preparation? Like, the best part about football is it's not the NBA. These guys don't just roll up to the stadium and then just spam 2 plays over and over again, right? It's a preparation. It's a chess match, right? We know how much the scripted plays happen, and then the second half adjustments happen. That's why coaching is so important in the NFL. I'm not saying end Thursday Night Football because I enjoy watching the games. It's an easy fix. You add a bye, and everybody plays off a bye. They should have both had 10 days to prepare for that, and it would have been one of the best games of the year. Other than that, I thought that the Cincinnati offensive line looked a little better. But once again, it's hard to tell with that Miami defensive line coming in at such a disadvantage. They were on the field for, what, 90 plays against Buffalo, and now they turn around and they come here. How much of that is them being better, and how much of that is them just beating up on a tired opponent? Tua looked great before it happened. Bridgewater's going to be a pretty good backup. I don't know how much I'm going to downgrade Miami in my rankings overall, but, boy, that interception at the end was kind of rough there. For all the Teddy B is an upgrade to Tua people.
If you ever played quarterback, that wasn't on him. And if it was on him, it was simply because he probably called the wrong check because he hasn't been the first team offense. He hasn't been the one practicing with those guys and getting into those checks. That play that he called, if you ever quarterback, the coach quarterback like I have, you know that the play he went to where he was throwing the ball was the appropriate spot in the zone. The tight end was open if he gets his head around as soon as he gets off the line. He checked to it or either called the play incorrectly or something went wrong with miscommunication. As I said, just with lack of practice with that unit and getting snaps because, you know, right now, I'm sure the McDaniel was all about, you know, empowering Tua and getting Tua as many snaps and getting confident with him, believing that this is his team after coming out of what he just went through with Flores and stuff. So that's always miscommunication. It looked bad, but it actually was just all about practice. And a lot of people are saying things about that. But if you know anything about football, it was the appropriate check. If the tight end gets his head around, the tight end got the wrong call, so it made it look bad because he kept going instead of stopping in the zone where Bridgewater anticipated him being. As you said, I don't downgrade them much, but I definitely feel like I was on the right side. Attrition or not, I feel like Miami easily covers that game, if not for that miscommunication on that turnover. And for sure, if Tua doesn't go out, if Tua isn't injured in the first half, they win that game, I believe, because Miami's offense was humming, you know. So Cincinnati still doesn't impress me. Joe Burrow is having a hangover. I don't even know this guy anymore from the guy I knew at LSU. He's getting very eccentric, man, and it's trying to trouble him to me. He's going into some areas with trying to, you know, stand out and be seen with his clothes that I don't really like. I think he needs to just more concentrate on playing football. It's like just wearing a T-shirt and cap, Joe, you know. Don't let the money, you know, change you. So we'll see how he responds to going to his first Super Bowl so young, because we forget we had Dan Marino with the same type of hype. Joe Burrow, he was probably had more hype and was a better player. And he went to that first Super Bowl his second year and never got back his whole career, you know. So I hope Joe Burrow can get his game together and do what he needs to do. The last touchdown that was scored, honestly, wasn't even really a good play call because it was less than 2 minutes left. But, I mean, you know, he took advantage of defense being in a run situation, thinking that it was going to be a run, and was able to get the ball down the field to Chase. And, you know, kudos to them. But overall, watching the game, the Bengals still didn't impress me at all.
I'm probably a little higher on them than you. And, yeah, I'm not sure what would happen, right? And we'll never know. But I really felt like Miami's defense got a lot worse there in the second half as they got tired. So we'll see. I'm going to continue to rail against Thursday Night Football until they do it right. And we'll see how long it takes. I'll be honest, though, with the NBA, I would, like, not expect them to fix it. The NFL is pretty good about this sort of stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if what I'm calling for happens within the next 2 years. I mean,
they had more first downs, you know, so I think that score is a little bit misleading. Sorry.
And it might be, and we'll see how these teams are going forward. You know, parity rules the NFL. Miami now 3-1. Bengals 2-2, right? Even after a slow start, they can still get things going here. If that line comes together, because we know there's 4 new people and they're still working on cohesion, this could be a much better team. I wouldn't be surprised if they're really good by week 10 or week 11 when those guys get used to playing with each other. But we'll see how it goes.
We had BYU versus Utah State. BYU did not cover. The clients now were able to get Utah State in that game live at plus 14.5, and they get a late cover after the refs and Mormon land were really just calling a foul whistle all game. It was ridiculous. It's one new referee. I guess he think he has guns, so he want to make a lot of calls to kind of show off, you know. But we were able to bag that one. And then in another game, South Carolina State visited South Carolina, and South Carolina with the late cover, the late touchdown. They really wanted to cover that 40 minus 39.5. It was a hilarious spread. The kids on the sidelines jumped up when they scored the touchdown with a bit and 50 seconds left.
Yeah,
as if it was winning the Super Bowl. I was like, this is ridiculous that these kids know these spreads like this, you know? So, yeah, that's the time.
No, you made a good point. I wouldn't be surprised if they're betting, especially a lot of them that know they're not going to the NFL, right? I mean, there's some guys that are delusional, right? But most guys at a college program pretty understand, like, this is the end of the road, right? Yeah. Why not get that money? And if you're betting on your own team, there's no way you could feel morally bad about it. If I play for South Carolina State and I go bet on South Carolina State, regardless of what the public thinks, I don't think I've done anything wrong, right? It's only bad when you bet on the other team. So
tell Major League Baseball that and Pete Rose, right?
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. We got an exciting weekend of football coming up. Let's jump into present with actually tonight. Some college football tonight. Washington was -2.5 down to -1.5 in Los Angeles, taking on UCLA. Talk to us about this Pac-12 matchup. Hey, we got to talk the Pac-12 while we can, while it still exists, right?
I'm excited to watch this one. This is going to have a lot to do with who wins this conference. These two teams right here are right there in that second tier, probably right under Utah and USC. They would definitely be third and fourth interchangeable for the next teams in the conference. And they're both pretty well coached. You got Chip Kelly, you know, he's cut his teeth by building that Oregon program up into a national brand, and also by going and doing a really good job at Philadelphia. People don't realize, they don't remember, but he did pretty well in Philadelphia. And then he went to the 49ers, and then all the stuff with Kaepernick went on, and kind of ended his career. But he's doing a pretty good job rebuilding UCLA. UCLA is not an easy school to have a powerhouse program. It's a lot easier at Oregon to do that. There's a lot less restrictions. But UCLA is also a private school, so that's one thing too. Another aspect to it. He's facing Kalen DeBoer. Kalen DeBoer has been impressive since he took over Washington. He came from Fresno State. At Fresno State, he did an excellent job building that program. He has Michael Penix, who came over from Indiana. He was the offensive coordinator at Indiana before he took the job at Fresno State. And Kalen DeBoer is the real deal. He actually took a less talented Fresno State team to UCLA last year and upset the Bruins. So Kalen DeBoer knows how to play. UCLA is familiar with the opponent, but DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who's the quarterback from Las Vegas, who quarterbacks the Bruins, spoke about that. So I don't know if the Bruins will be fired up, and maybe that's why that number's coming down. I'm hearing a lot of sharp guys on UCLA tonight. It's the short dog. I like Washington. I like everything I've seen from them, but they're 4-0 at home, no road test. So this is the first time going on the road to a pretty tough opponent. I really like the over 65, but the only reason I won't get involved because I don't play a lot of totals, for one. And for two, DTR and Chip Kelly both said something about they didn't want to get into a shootout with these guys. UCLA can run the ball, so I don't know if maybe they switch up their pace and their tempo and maybe go to a slow down offense and control the ball from running, because as you know, usually Chip Kelly runs that fast break offense. Maybe they're thinking about slowing it down, or maybe they're just saying that for the press to kind of throw off Kalen DeBoer, a little gamemanship for the Huskies to think about. But I'll be very locked in on this game tonight, and if I get involved, it'll probably be live spread. On Saturday morning,
Big 12 matchup, Oklahoma State +1 right now in Baylor, taking on the Bears. It's a great matchup, obviously. The odds have it real close. What do you expect in this one?
This is two football teams that still play defense, and that's rare in college football. They both have super solid defenses and have throughout the past couple of years through the program. Their coaches are completely different. You got Gundy on one side, one of the most outspoken coaches in college football. He's a hell of an interview, He's the one that said I'm a man, I'm 40. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my guy. So you got him. And then on the other side, another guy who I'm really impressed by, that's Dave Aranda. He used to be the LSU defensive coordinator, then finally landing as the head coach over here at Baylor. Extremely cerebral guy. Me and Dr. Laverne always talk about Dave Aranda and how smart he is. And he's just got a different type of brain, man. He's one of those guys who kind of like on the spectrum, you know what I'm saying? It's just like he's a different type of thinker, different type of communicator. It's like he does everything left-handed, but he does it brilliantly, Great defensive mind, just a great head coach, great leader of men. He does it his own type of way, and he always has this Baylor team ready to play. This is a rematch from last year's Big 12 championship game, actually. Last year, the Cowboys were defeated in the last second by Baylor. Their running back came up short. It was kind of like that St. Louis Rams Tennessee Titans Super Bowl where he reached out at the end and was like an inch away, but couldn't get it in, and ended up with Baylor hose off and stops Oklahoma State from getting to the playoffs. It would have been the first time that that program had ever reached that. So I know that Oklahoma State's going to be extremely motivated. Their quarterback, Spencer Sanders, is one of the better quarterbacks in the Big 12. He only threw 12 interceptions last season, but he threw 7 of those in 2 games against Baylor. He was picked out 4 times alone in the championship game. So David Aranda has really given him problems on executing. The Bears are looking for a 10th consecutive home win. Their offense ranks 22nd, averaging 40.5, but they only give up 16.8. They've been one of the more balanced teams in college football over the past few years. Just like Coach Aranda a lot, man. It's going to be very hard for me to see Oklahoma State going in Waco and getting out of there with a win.
All right, I'm going to jump on Baylor with you there. We talked about this one before. We talked about this during our preview. NC State +4 in Clemson. I'll bet you preseason we expected that line to be a little more. I think
it's +4 now.
Yeah, what was it right? What was it before?
But for the game,
NC State +4.
No, I can't believe this because the clients and I got it at 6.5, and I got a guy, a close friend of mine that I kind of like. He was like my understudy, and now he's works with one of the more bigger casinos in the country, and he actually works in a sports book. And he told me, he says, man, every time that you drop your plays on ESPN 97.5, the lines change. He said that, man. He said that a couple times. He's told me, he's like, man, this line was this, now it's this. This line is this. I gotta text him, man, because this is unbelievable. We caught that line, and when I gave it out yesterday, it was 6.5. Me and the clients bought it up to 7, and we got it at 6.5. Some of us. So that's a major drop in points, man. But the Tigers are in trouble, man. And what that line's telling me is a lot of people are thinking that NC State's going to win this game straight up, and I definitely think they have a chance. I don't know if you noticed or not, but Clemson, they have the longest active winning streak in college football at home, 36 straight. So it's going to be a tall task for NC State to go in there and get a victory, but I definitely think they keep it within the number. Last year they had an overtime thriller. State beat them for the first time in 8 years. Devin Leary played huge in that game. He threw for like 400 yards on 32 of 44. He didn't play that well last week, and I expect him to have a huge game this week against Clemson. I think Dave Doran, the coach for NC State, kind of held back a little of that playbook last week, knowing that they were going to Clemson, and he didn't want to have anything on tape that he really could expose to Clemson's great defense. You know, they have a great defense. They have always had a great one. Clemson's quarterback, DJ Uiagalelei, he had some misleading numbers. Everyone's thinking he had such a great game last week against Wake Forest because he threw for 5 touchdowns, and statistically, it was one of his best performances since being in Clemson. But in actuality, I watched every play of the game because I was involved, as you know, with Wake Forest +7. His receivers made 2 outstanding plays on 50-50 balls that were actually kind of bad throws. They just made some great athletic plays and won one-on-one battles against corners, and then took the ball to the house. So those were 2 of his touchdowns in the first half, and the other 2 more he got in overtime. You're dealing with a short field, you know, it's not like you marched down the field and scored. So it's a little misleading. NC State's defense gave him some real problems last year. He only threw for 111 yards on 12 for 26. And I think Dave Doran's defense is going to be prepared again. As you said, we talked about this, Don. It's amazing how fast time flies, right? We're already here. Now, we just talked about that like yesterday, and now they're playing. I have a ticket at +850 for NC State to win the ACC. And the reason the ticket was so high is because the books know that Clemson has won 36 straight at home. And in order for NC State to win the title in the ACC, they're going to have to break their streak. So, as I said, it's going to be a tall task, but I do like the points a lot. NC State has the most returning starters in the ACC, and I think those guys are going to be really excited to play in Clemson and look at it as a real challenge to go and break that streak. And a lot of upperclassmen on that team that remember getting beat down by Clemson before and how good it felt last year, and I think they want to, rebound and do it again.
All right, let's jump into Sunday. For most people, this is annoying. For you and I, it's right in our wheelhouse because the first game is going to kick off on the West Coast, 6:30 a.m. That's fine with me. I'm happy about that. You know, some people think it's too early. I love it personally. I'm always up early working, trying to get the information with the East Coast guys. So Minnesota Vikings are -3 now in New Orleans, taking on your Saints. I think the reason is because now we're expecting Andy Dalton to play. So the books have downgraded accordingly. And of course, if they were both healthy, I think that's a big downgrade with how Jameis was beat up, you know, these past couple of weeks and not looking like himself. I'm actually fine with that decision because I don't think he should have been out there. And boy, maybe after watching last night, right? Let's protect these guys a little bit more. So good call there for Dennis Allen, especially in unfamiliar territory over at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London, England. They'll be kicking off. This is a tough one for me to get involved with. Personally, I just figured we'd talk about it because it's standalone, and a lot of people are probably going to want to get up and eat their eggs and drink their coffee and watch this one. Originally, I was liking the Saints here, but I'm a little worried without Dalton at quarterback. The total's 41. How would you get involved in this one if you're going to bet it?
Oh, man, this is going to be a tough one. I probably want to get involved at all because on paper – and the numbers screaming Vikings, right? But I know how the books lay numbers. And that +3 with the Saints is probably the play. I think that you're going to see a little bit more juice out the offense this week because Andy Dalton can scramble. You know, he's always been a football player first over quarterback. Jameis Winston just was simply trying to be a leader and be out there, but there's no way he should have been playing with those broken bones in his back, and his play was showing it. But you try throwing a ball with a, you know, bones broken in your back, it's pretty difficult. So I'm more interested to see if Pete Carmichael can do anything with these Saints offense. The Saints offense has been absolutely horrible. It's been horrendous. They haven't put up any points like they should have with the kind of weapons that they have and the speed that they have, and it's really glaring. Of them without Sean Payton up today. You know their defense is prideful. They're going to play, but how long can you hold it down, you know, before, you know, it breaks? Your offense has to give you some type of point. So I'll stay away from this game, but the number's saying Saints +3. I'm sorry, I lost.
Right. Yeah, it is tough. Michael Thomas out, and Alvin Kamara is also playing through an injury as well. So let's go to one of the marquee games on the morning slate. The Buffalo Bills coming off that disappointing loss against Miami. Now, boy, no rest for the wicked, right? Head to Baltimore. Ravens catching 3 at home. This one has a total of 51. Another one I'm happy to not get involved with and just watch. I think you can make good arguments for both teams. Of course, this should be a great bounce back spot for the Buffalo Bills. But one of the issues for this team wasn't that their great players weren't playing up to their potential. It's that their great players simply aren't playing. This team has been decimated with injuries on the defensive side, and that's really hurt them. And Lamar has looked as good as he had since that MVP season because we know he can run, right? That's like a constant. Right. You're never going to take that away from him. But the accuracy he's shown on his passing this year. And, you know, this is fun because this is the 2 quarterbacks, and I'll admit that I was part of that brigade. Not that I scout myself, but I listen to scouts, and they all say, you can't teach accuracy. You can't teach accuracy, right? These are 2 players that have shown, hey, the world's changing. We can teach it because both these players went from being inaccurate to very accurate. I can understand why that totals at 51. But I'm not necessarily – first of all, I'm not taking really any overs right now. Like, everything's going under right now. Like, scoring's down around the NFL. These teams at 17 games, they're treating the first 3 or 4 games as preseason. They're not playing a lot in preseason. They're working through everything right now. But I'm also fine staying off and under here as well. Do you think there's a profitable angle that I'm missing here? What are your thoughts on the Ravens and the Bills?
The only thing I can see is over, like you said, too. But as you said, everything's going under, so it makes you as a bettor say, I have to beat the market, and the market is saying that the over is not a good bet right now in the NFL. See a shootout coming. Buffalo will definitely be motivated coming off a loss. I don't know if Gabe Davis is playing. Is he playing?
We don't know for sure.
Just my luck. I take him in fantasy this year. Was thinking this is his breakout season. He can't get healthy. Yeah, Gabe Davis is huge in this game because you know, Baltimore is going to score. Lamar's going to put up 30. So now the question is, can Allen put up 30? Because Buffalo's still going to struggle on that back end, dealing with Devernay and was Bateman.
Andrews, Bateman, yeah.
Right. Andrews is money. He might be right neck and neck with Kelsey right now. At one time, Kelsey was a step ahead. I don't know if I can say that now. Mark Andrews is really that uncoverable. He's at the point where you already can just pencil in him getting 80 yards per game, receiving. And with all of those factors, along with Lamar's electric feet and ability to break containment and take it to the house, he's even more electric than Josh Allen. I also think Lamar will be really hyped for this game, knowing how much Josh Allen is loved by the media and how much they're saying he's the MVP this season and all that. So don't be surprised if we don't see a lot of special things from Lamar. And Josh Allen is a competitor himself, so he'll be coming to play too. So only thing I could see is the over. But if I had to pick a side, I got to go Ravens, just simply because, one, they're at home. Two, Buffalo's coming off that tough loss to Miami. And not only that, they are struggling in the defensive backfield. So,
yeah, it's a lot of injuries to overcome. The Jacksonville Jaguars and their coach, Doug Peterson, head back to Philadelphia. Revenge game of sorts. The Eagles flying high. And you know what sucks, though? We're never going to get a true test. You have to qualify with all these Eagles numbers when you're making a model that they're doing it against subpar competition. They have by far the easiest schedule in the NFL for a competent team. And it's one of the easiest schedules I can remember personally. Now, originally we thought this one would be pretty easy. Now, not so fast as the Jacksonville Jaguars, after an opening day stinker to the Commandos, went ahead and put up 2 dominating wins, first at home against the Colts where they shut them out, and then going to Los Angeles to beat the Chargers 38-10. Trevor Lawrence is starting to look like the prospect we had hoped he'd be. And boy, I mean, it almost feels like you throw out all of last year's numbers, because Urban Meyer was so bad. Having a real coach in here, these guys have been picking in the top 5 for the last 10 years, minus that one season. So, they got a lot of talent on that defensive end too. Great defensive front here for the Jaguars. This one is tough because I feel it's 2 teams that were moving up in the rankings. But of course, doing this for a long time, right? We don't want to just skyrocket these guys up. Like the Eagles, right? Remember, the Eagles, look like they didn't really have a chance to be true Super Bowl contenders last year in their playoff game. Now looks like, and they're probably most likely to get the number 1 seed in the NFC, but that's for the schedule. And the Jaguars, another one too. And I also think this is a tough spot for Jacksonville with the hurricane. Maybe not the same level of preparation as usual, not to mention cross-country travel, playing in Los Angeles last week. I haven't got involved in this one yet, but I think it's a fascinating game, and I can't wait to watch it. What are your thoughts?
Very fascinating game. You got Doug Peterson, the only coach to win a Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles that was kind of done wrong and ran out of town. So he has a brand new young regime that he's building, and Doug Peterson is a very likable guy, and he knows what he's doing too. So I think those young boys for him are going to be real motivated to play hard for him. So I expect a really good effort out of Jacksonville. I also think that they're going to feel like they're representing the hurricane victims, So I think that Philly has to be careful this game. I know they've been lights out, playing really well, but I really think Trevor Lawrence and his coach coming to Philadelphia and keep this game close and keep it within the number. I think that the Eagles get their first test of the season.
All right, 6.5 for the Jaguars. If we're looking at this, do you think it gets to 7, or do I just bet it now?
I buy it.
Eagles are a popular team.
They're a very popular team, but a lot of people like Jacksonville, and you know how these old sharps are. As the weekend comes here, they're going to bet that back down, just like you saw that 6.5 get pounded on NC State. That's our sharp money, man. That's
my favorite team. Technically, your hometown team, even though, right? Like most people, you didn't grow up in Las Vegas, but the Raiders out to 2.5. This one perplexes me, man. I know that everyone's down on Nathaniel Hackett, and he has made some egregious decisions. But the team's 2-1. Like, how are people saying he's the worse coach than the guy that's 0-3 that took over a playoff team? And that's what's pissing me off about this guy. Oh, we need to learn how to win. Well, they were in the playoffs last year. Devontae Adams has won 39 games the last 3 seasons in the regular season. Maybe you need to learn how to win, Josh. I'm really frustrated with this team. And, of course, you know, everyone's going to think, oh, this is now or never. This is now or never. Technically, last week was now or never because only like 6 teams have made the playoffs after an 0-3 start in like the last 10 or 15 years. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I know it's really bad. If my last point here, why I like the Broncos, is I can't think of one Raiders player besides Max Crosby that would start on this Denver defense. I just think their roster is so much better. And hey, maybe that playoff was a mirage last year, because if you look, this roster hasn't been good. These guys haven't hit on a first-round pick. Maybe you can argue Colton Miller. So they had 1 first-round pick in the last 10 years that's actually been good. You can't consistently miss on these first-round picks and expect to be a good team. So I'm with the Broncos in the points here. I'm like, keep betting the Raiders. I haven't liked what I'm seeing. And I think that Wilson and Hackett are only, you know, we talked about the offensive line cohesiveness with the Bengals. I think it's going to be the same thing with Russ and this new coordinator, right? And you can argue the same thing with Carr and McDaniel, but I don't know. I like Russ more as a player than Carr. I think that Russ is kind of getting unfairly slandered right now, moving to a new team. What are your thoughts on the Raiders and the Broncos?
Nah, I'm taking the Raiders.
Really? All right. Let me hear why. Hear why.
Because they're a desperate team. They're going to win because they're very desperate, and they have too many prideful guys over there, especially on the offensive side, and that's going to be the issue. If the Raiders score 24 points, they're going to win. We've seen what Nathaniel Hackett's offense looks like with Russell Wilson. It doesn't look pretty at all. I don't see them scoring 3 touchdowns in the game against the Raiders. You know, so if the Raiders offense continues to produce like it has produced, last week they could have beat Tennessee if Darren Waller catches those 2 touchdowns. You know, he was wide open. He dropped both of them. So I really think that the Raiders offense is going to be too much. I don't know how much their defense matters in this game, because I don't like what I've seen from Denver's offense. And Nathaniel Hackett isn't smart enough to get about Javonte Williams. If he was smart enough, Javonte Williams would get like 30 carries a game and they'd beat everybody. They'd be a real good offense, because they would be able to run play action with Russell Wilson from off Javonte Williams, running the ball on you. And we know that Russell Wilson is good off play action, especially throwing deep post and things like that. And also he can scramble. You could have did some bootlegs. They really should go back to the old school Broncos offense when Elway was there, with a stretch and with the bootleg off the stretch, and keep it very simple, and they'll be a very good team, because with the defense that they have, they don't have to score many points. Their offense looks pathetic. I don't know what the hell Hackett is doing. Russell Wilson does not look good at all. We already know Russell Wilson's been overrated his whole career as a quarterback. A lot of times he held the ball too long, while the offense didn't click. But as you see, Geno Smith has those same guys looking pretty good. You know, it's a more than competent offense. Seahawks have scored more points than the Broncos have this season. Unless it's a miracle and some things that happen over the week where their offense is now clicking, there's no way they score enough points to beat the Raiders at home.
We're completely opposite here. I don't like this Raiders defense at all. And I think after going against the top 5 49ers defense, everything's going to seem a lot easier. And I think you'd agree, even the Texas defense, probably if you just
what did they do against the Seahawks defense?
Yeah, but that was like the perfect game, right? Like situationally, like that was their Super Bowl, right? Pete Carroll had his whole life, all summer to get ready for that game. Those guys were so fired up. It was essentially their Super Bowl. So we'll see. We're opposite there, but that makes it fun, right? And one of us will get the victory lap on Monday. Chiefs playing the Buccaneers. This game is a pick 'em now, juice to Tampa. Total's 46. Is this getting moved? I was under the assumption it's getting moved.
It may play. I think it's clearing up down there a little bit now, but
that's good.
Regardless of whatever field that they're on, if Tampa Bay wins this game, then we already know what's going on. Like, you play this way against the Packers, and then the next week bounce back and beat the Chiefs. Like, I don't see how that lines a pick them, but it is what it is. I would like the Chiefs only in this game.
Yeah, interesting here. My worry, of course, is this Chiefs defense, which seems like it's a little better than last year's, but still has been the Achilles heel for this team whenever they have been vulnerable. Tampa Bay, of course, has a top 5 defense, and they showed that against Green Bay. They didn't lose that game because Aaron Rodgers. They lost that game because their offense couldn't get more. I think that when you play Green Bay, you have to get more than 14 points to win the game, and I think that Tom Brady and the rest of the guys on the offensive side of the ball would agree. But just like I was talking about with Denver, I think it's going to be a lot easier this week because that Green Bay defense is solid on all 3 levels. The Chiefs have plenty of areas to attack. So let's see. These receivers should be getting a little more healthy too. I'll wait. Obviously, this is an information-based game. Let's find out what we're playing. Let's get the official injury report for the Tampa receivers. But you know me, I'm a Chiefs guy, and I think they got robbed last week, and they should be eager to bounce back.
I like Andy Reid against Todd Bowles' defenses in the past. That's
that
why.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I like how he's performed against Todd Bowles' defenses. Todd Bowles has struggled to stop Andy Reid's offenses, even when he's had some of the best defenses in the league. So that's my thing. I don't see after performance where Mahomes scores 3 points in the second half, him and the enemy had this big blow up that's been all over media, that the offense doesn't come out crisp this week and look good.
Yep. All right. So we'll see on that one. Not a strong take for me here.
Right, to the future. The future is going to be Packers -120 to win the AFC North. You just briefed us a little bit about how strong that Packers defense is. We've seen what they're going to be facing in the NFC North. I don't see anyone challenging the Packers to win the NFC North. -120 to me is a giveaway at this moment. They could even, I think, endure a Rodgers injury and still win the division. So on the future right now, that's pretty much a lock. It's got to be the Packers to win their division, man. The Bears are horrible. They don't have anything on offense. The Vikings, I don't trust their coaching. I know they beat the Packers in the first game, but that's that old off-season hangover that Aaron Rodgers always suffers from. He's always a guy who has a pretty good time in off-season and enjoys life and doesn't do a lot of practice with the team and being around the team. So I don't take too much stock into that Vikings win at all. I just really think that the Packers have full control of this division. Detroit is feisty, but they do the same thing every game, just like they did against Minnesota last week. They're going to get ahead. They're going to fight. They're going to come out with a great game plan, but they just don't know how to win. And it starts with their coach. He's a try-hard, but he doesn't know how to win. So I think the Packers run away with this division, and -120 is a give me. It's just like you're putting money up to go pick up later.
I completely agree. We're looking at teams that we think are going to continue to improve, and we know that Rodgers had little to no chemistry with any of the receivers. And I think that guy Dobbs or however you pronounce his name, Little Romeo, I think he's going to emerge as Rodgers' #1 target.
He's on both my fantasy teams.
I drafted him too because
nobody knew who he would.
Yeah,
nobody knew who he would.
Yeah. So I completely agree, man. I think they're going to, just like, we talked about the Cincinnati offensive line. I'm assuming the Broncos are going to get better. Maybe the Raiders get better, right? I shouldn't be a hater. I hope you're right on that one game, actually. But I think the Packers offense is going to continue to look good. So now is the time, though, man. I was just ready for the slander. Let's do kick the damn extra point.
Kick the damn extra point. It's an owner for the second time on the show. We just had Jerry Jones, and now we got the king of them all, Stephen Ross, man. Stephen Ross has been into some shady dealings, seems like, since he's been in Miami as the owner. You had the bullying case. Remember the bullying case back when Martin left back in 2016? He said it was due to racism and all of these things. And the Ted Wells report said that Mike Pouncey and John Jerry were doing the same thing that Incognito was doing to him, but he came and blurts out that it was racism. When you and I both know Mike Pouncey is an angel, I'm sure he was part of the ribbon too, and it was more of a rookie vet type of situation. But he comes out and blames it on racism and starts some initiatives that have done some great things for some communities in the NFL. But I don't like guys who play like the hero. We don't need a hero. What we need is an honest man And as time has gone on, we've seen the type of man that this owner is. You got the situation with Brian Flores, where he's lying to everyone about Flores, talking about him behind his back, and then in his face telling them to lose these games, and so that they can get draft Joe Burrow. Then you move forward. He's talking to Sean Payton, trying to put together a super team with Sean Payton and Tom Brady. Both of them are under contract. He started talking to Tom Brady when he was still with the Patriots, and then continued on with the Bucs. So a lot of people believe that the reason why Brady retired and Sean Payton retired this year because they were going to go play for the Dolphins, but Brian Flores, with his lawsuit, was able to stop all of his misdoings with that and all of his little wicked plans behind the scene. Now you got the situation with Tua. You know that this guy's hurt, but still you allow him to play. Every player is going to say they want to play. We just watched a piece by Mike Tomlin that you retweeted about how Mike Tomlin would not allow his player to play, even though the player was cleared by the medical team, simply because he told him, if you were my son, I wouldn't let you play. And this is the way all these coaches should be looking at it. It's not just business, and these owners should look at it with more than just how could I win at any cost. And now Tua suffered. We see one of the scariest things in NFL history on live TV last night. And that shocked a lot of people. And it was definitely something the NFL did not want going into millions of homes last night, with this kid laying out and obviously having a nervous reaction where his fingers are twisted up like that from being slammed to the ground. It's just an overall bad look that's been on the Miami Dolphins since Stephen Ross has been the owner. He's been a part of a lot of stuff that I don't agree with. He's did a lot of things that affected even like my team, because look at the Saints now. Sean Payton's gone, and now our team is falling apart because I'm sure that Sean Payton left with the idea of going to coach Tom Brady in Miami because he no longer had Drew Brees in New Orleans. So people are being affected by his decisions and the things that he does. Stephen Ross kicked the damn extra point.
Yeah, and I'm giving this award to McDaniel because I think he plays a role in here too. And I've said this before, right? I said it about Staley, and I said this was one of my issues with McDaniels. What's he going to do when a linebacker gets in his face? Drawing up the best play call and figuring out the play that's going to give you the most expected yards per attempt is great. But part of this is simply just leadership. And that's why I retweeted that Tomlin thing, because you have to be able to really be a true leader, you have to be able to stand up to, whether it's to the owner, to the organization, right? And that's why Flores is with Tomlin now, right? Because Tomlin respects that. And he says, wait a second, you stood up for what was right rather than just taking the NFL payoff, because don't think that guy Flores wasn't offered an envelope to make it all go away. Yeah. And I'll bet you it was a pretty nice envelope too. Yeah. So I think, this is one of these indictments when we bring in these whiz kid coaches, and they all think they're McVay. But the thing is, from what we've seen so far, McVay has the leadership abilities to go with the cognitive excellence. I worry about some of these guys coming in and thinking, hey, you may be the greatest coordinator and the greatest play caller, but we might actually need that CEO type of guy that's really going to be able to stand up and be a leader. So I agree with everything you said about Stephen Ross. He's a blight on the NFL. And that when we look back, it won't be us, but, grandchildren and people, they're going to look at our ownership system with these sports teams as archaic as we do when we see kings and lords, right? When we're reading about the 1500s, right? And Henry the Tudor's just chopping all his wives' head off and no one say anything. And we're like, wow, that's pretty crazy, right? That's how we're, because he's not the only one, right? We just got rid of Sarver in the NBA. Everyone knows how bad Dan Snyder is. And look at Stephen Ross, right? There's a lot of these guys, Irsay even, right? If he was a player, he might have been kicked out of the league for all those DUIs and drug charges. So there's an issue here with the ownership, but I think the coach needs to take some responsibility as well. I mean, they were even showing that thing, right? They kept showing that same FaceTime over and over. It's like, okay, when it's been run this many times, you can't tell me that this isn't just a plant. It's not a genuine conversation, but it's like, I'm going to make you into a star, this and that, come with me, you're going to work hard. And it was really just, I think that McDaniel's getting a little bit off the hook, and maybe this is a learning point for him, right? He is young. Maybe he will learn to do that. but I was definitely disappointed in him as well. Let's get to the ball and parlay. Yours is first, so we'll start with you.
Yeah, man, we got a perfect storm for a blowout tomorrow evening. Got the #1 team in the country, Georgia, coming off a lackluster performance against Kent State at home. I know that Kirby Smart is out there working those kids like John Henry this week. I know that he was pissed because they did not look good. They turned over the ball too much on offense, and that's bad news for Missouri. Georgia's a team that prides itself on not playing its opponent, but playing up against a standard that Kirby Smart sets. And I think we're going to see that standard tomorrow in Columbia. The Bulldogs are 5-0 in Columbia. They're 9-1 in their last 10 against Missouri. The last 3 matchups they've won by 31 points. With the focus being so much on the offense and how the offense has not performed well last week and how they were turning over the ball, I think we see a crisp performance from the mailman, Stetson Bennett. I think he gets the ball to all his weapons like Brock Bowers, that incredible tight end who's the next Travis Kelce. I think that they continue their dominance, and I think that they start early and often. So we're going to go with Georgia first half -17.5. And I'm also laying the game for -28, but going to get the first half first because they might be ahead so much that it's hard to catch up in the second half. So we're rolling with the Bulldogs.
All right. I'm going to a common theme. If you're going to be watching me and watching these shows for a while, you're going to know that I like taking the points with the divisional dog. Now, this one isn't a divisional home dog, right? That's the perfect one. But the Titans are on the road, taking on the Indianapolis Colts, a team that I was not impressed with, to be honest, last week. They should be 0-3 or 0-2-1 because that taunting call was one of the worst calls that I've ever seen in the National Football. I mean, these guys talk to each other after every single play. And all of a sudden, we just decided to do that, right? Matt Ryan looks okay back there, but really, if he's not going to Pittman, not doing much with the ball there. And Jonathan Taylor, of course, you start to see what this workload does to this guy. He's still been good, but this team's going to play from behind a lot. Now, people are going to talk about Tennessee. And yes, I know this offense really isn't that good, but I think their defense is just as good or better than the Colts defense. And I think they're going to be able to at least keep this game close or probably win outright, because a lot of times when you take these dogs, they are winning outright. But I'm getting 3.5 in a divisional game against a team that I rate lower than the market does. I'll take the Tennessee Titans plus 3.5.
All right, so spread going with the Tennessee Titans at the Colts, who are really, really a struggling team with a struggling situation at quarterback. Matt Ryan is washed. And I'm going to be rolling with the Georgia Bulldogs first half -17.5. And as a bonus, on Friday tonight, the UNLV Running Rebels are going to be at home facing a New Mexico team that I think that they will handle pretty handily. So we're going to be on UNLV tonight. We're also going to split that one. So that's a bonus pick for you guys. Take UNLV first half -7.5 and also take them for the game -14.5. The Rebels are 4-0 against the spread this season. I think it goes to 5-0. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. Another week down. This football season is flying by as we go into October, last day of September. Anything for the people spread before we get out of here?
Let's have another good weekend.
All right, man. Let's kill it. Y'all follow my guy Spread Astaire at Spread Astaire. Follow me at 5 Star in Vegas. Spell out the 5. Best of luck to you all. We'll see you soon.